Flaps are a very essential part of every plane, and I like to include them in as many as I can. In this video, I'm going to take you through step by step on how to add them to your wing, so be sure to stick around to the end of the video. When building a wing, these are the various wedge plates that you may need to build it. It can really be done at any shape and size, but as long as it works for the plane that you're doing, or for that matter, anything you're doing, whatever wedge plate you need can work. For the sake of our project, we're only going to use the wedge plate in the middle, so we can move these all off to the side and just focus on the one in the middle. We're going to use a lot of these and create a wing, and I'm going to show you how to build complex folding flaps into your wing. Alright, now we can get rid of this and just bring in a whole bag of them. What we're going to do is create a wing, so let's just dump some out here and get building. Alright, now we're going to build up the rest of the wing, but when you're building up your wing, be sure to leave room inside the wing for flaps. So watch what I'm doing very closely. You're going to want to create a little bit of a lip under it just so you can continue building up. This can be done on any size wing, just as long as you give yourself a way to build. You always want to make sure your wings are sturdy so they don't warp. That's always a big problem. The next thing we're going to do is optional. It involves quite a fair number of these if you want to. Now this is optional. You can always leave it exposed like this, but if you do not like those holes, this may be a good option for you. You can hinge these tiles on the front of them, or these curved slopes, sorry, and create a very smooth looking look. So let's do that now. Alright, once you figure this out, or once you've built this, you just take your hinge that's on the very end here, and you're going to have to remove one of these plates. You just simply set it on right there, like so, like that. And it lines up nice and flush. It gets rid of that sort of hard look, and it gets you a very nice looking sort of thing there. And you're going to want to take another one of these hinges later on down the line here, and also attach it. So you're going to need to extend this out a little bit here. See if I can find myself another one here. And then you're going to want to take it and line it up like this. That should line up pretty well to what you're going to want to do. Alright, just a helpful tip here. If you ever get into a circumstance that's like this, where your plate here overlaps your thing, sorry, it's not showing up very well in this focus. Well, if you ever get to where you have to angle your plate like this, and a normal 1x1 will not fit in that spot, as you can see that that's not going to work, it's not going to fit. You can always use these round ones right here and stick them in there perfectly. And what that does is it allows you to sort of hinge this to meet where you need it to be. So you can just place your tiles right on top of there, like so. Perfect. Alright, in this part I'm going to cover up the wing on the top, and you can do this in whatever color you need to do or you're going to want to do. Mine's going to be in multicolor since I really don't have any other colors, so let's do that. Alright, once you get to this point, it's starting to look a lot more like a wing. You can kind of imagine this as being a wing to maybe a plane, maybe a fighter. It's getting there. It's multicolored, so it's sort of hard to tell, but just imagine this was all white or gray. That look pretty good, right? Now, what we're focused on at this point is getting those really realistic looking flaps. Now, it's sort of hard to get on a smaller scale, but we're going to try to figure this out. What we're going to want to do is use some hinges here to our advantage and try to figure out some flaps. So let's watch that. Alright, once we do that, you can now see that we do get a flap. It's a basic flap, but it's sort of a standard. I mean, on a larger plane, you could probably fit some other flaps down here, and I'll show you an example of what a larger plane's flap would look like. So let's figure out how to attach this to this. Alright, now I'm just going to point out that normally on a plane this size, you just take this flap and attach it straight here. You know, obviously you would leave some room right here for the stud, but it would work fairly well like this. But the point of this video is to try to show you how to make those really big complex flaps that slide out of the wing. So this wing may be a bit thicker than it normally would, but this is just to give you an example of what it would look like on the larger plane. We're going to want to start with the flap. I would recommend using pieces, these little L brackets. We're going to want to stick them right onto the thing right here. And what will also work is just using a 1x2 tile and then putting a 1x1 tile. It's not as strong, but it'll also work. But you just need to make sure to line up those 1x1 tiles because they don't always seem to line up right. And if they're not lined up right, they may jam the track that we're going to do here in a second. Now in this case, since we're going to need to remove some of these plates on the bottom, we're going to need to use some larger tiles. I'm sorry I didn't mention this earlier, but this is my first time building this. I'm building this real time. We're going to want to replace those with larger tiles. So let's do that. Now just on a little bit of a minor note, I know I told you earlier to use this one, but what you're going to want to actually do is take this off and place this longer one. It could be either one, but these are easier to get. And stick it on like this, and then take your larger tile and replace it for a smaller tile. So you get something like that looks somewhat like this. Now this isn't perfect, but we're then going to take this assembly here and try to somewhat figure out where we're going to put it here. As you can see, it seems like it'll fit right here. It sticks out a little bit, but we can make the wing a little larger for that. And it looks about right. Looks like an airfoil. So what we're going to do is now we're going to try to make this work out. What you're going to want is you're going to want a couple of little, I'm dropping them here, a couple of these little 1x1s or whatever you can use as a stopper. What you're going to do is in here, you're going to put a stopper right there. And what that's going to do, put a little stopper right here and a little stopper right over here. It's a little red one. What that's going to do is now when you pull your flap out, a little stuck there. When you pull your flap out, it's going to pull it out and stop it right there. And it's going to extend your flap. So it goes in, out, in, out. You're going to want to fill this in with pieces to make it more friendly for the next step. So let's do that. Alright, now this next step is very important to making this flap function properly. You can see that, see, right now, it does function, it slides like we want it to. So what we're going to do is we need to cover these up with tiles. So what we're going to want to do, in an ideal world, is continue building up our thing right here. Bring in some more, that's probably not the smartest choice to use there, we can use a larger one. Bring this in. And then we're going to want to take advantage of these pieces and somehow get them over here. Now this is where it starts getting less realistic, I know, because the wings can be really thick. But remember, this is just an example on a smaller scale. So let's get into it. Alright, now this was pretty sloppy, but it does function. As you can see, now we have a sliding mechanism. And when we flip it over, it appears to be normal at first, but then slides out like this. And what's even better is that it also hinges. So that's basically your flat mechanism there. It's sort of a flatter flat, but it's simpler. And this, again, this is a small scale. It's a little thicker than it should be, but we're gonna sort of make this look, we're gonna make it look right, so stay with me. Alright, I'm gonna use plates like these to build up the side here and try to make this look a little more natural, and then we'll finish out with what I have to say. Alright, now this is the end product. Now, it's not perfect, it is in multiple colors, but it gets the general idea, the general shape of a wing. It gets that sort of leading edge. But, can you tell there's anything back here? Look at this. Can it slide it out and bend it down to get a flap? Yep. So, that's how you build one of these flaps into a wing. It's quite simple as long as you know what you're doing. This works perfectly. You can see it just slides right in and out like that. No Technic pieces needed, and just nothing, and this can even be built into a wing this small. It doesn't need to be a big plane. So if you have a smaller plane and you want to give it a really cool feature by adding flaps to it, then this is a good way to do it. So this is quite easy once you know what you're doing. I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial, and if you want to see more of them, please be sure to subscribe to my channel for weekly tutorials and reviews on my planes. So as always, please like, subscribe, share, comment, and I'll see you next time.